Okay, so now, Stone Soup Podcast, just to be explaining what we do here. The kid's fable, should I call it? Not a fable, it's a kid's story. I haven't even read it, but Stone Soup, a couple of hobos making soup, bunch of people come over, walk by, they like, it'd be really good if we could have, something else, and then before you know it, the whole town's there putting a little bit of something in there, and it turns out awesome, and we all kind of share in each other's awesomeness, and have a good meal. Except that on Stone Soup, it's kind of a hodgepodge of all sorts of shit. It could be comedy, philosophy, whatever we feel like talking about. It could be abstract, it could be structured. I'm not even going to be able to predict what we're going to do or say. And, there's a little bit of everything, some science, we'll talk about, if you know any of my Twitch stuff, we'll be talking about the meaning of life and very intricate science that goes all over the place into different fields and lots of theories. And then the next sentence be talking about raping your grandmother with dead babies. You just never know what's going to happen. And I'm going to apologize in advance and lock up your daughters.
In advance?
Yeah. In advance for everything else.
Everything to go.
Yeah, because what you just heard, that's just like nothing. It's nothing compared to what you will hear, most likely. We're going to get banned, so enjoy us while we're here, and then you'll probably have to follow us over at Minds, because they're the only people that'll have us. Minds.com. So, anything you want to add about Stone Soup, as far as how you feel you want it to go, or what it is to you?
I think I should drink more beer.
I agree completely. That's a great idea. I mean,
that's what I think.
I'm getting a bit of a headache, so
there needs to be more alcohol in this soup.
I think I'm gonna medicate a little bit because I'm starting to get a little bit of a headache, and I don't need that trying to record a podcast. Just a distraction. Get my Stoned Soup here, being is that we were fortunate enough to live in a medical marijuana environment and not be persecuted and made to live in fear and vilified and actively hunted and then pirated. So sad, this state of the world. So, that's perfect to mention. Not your body, not your business. If the government or employer tries to tell you what you can and can't do with your own body or what two consenting adults want to do, then it's like saying you're biological property. That
you can say, blow me, and if they want to, they will.
They just might. And, I mean,
hey,
blowjobs for free, you'd be a fool to turn them down. I mean, this is the party of the universe. It's all about experiences and enjoyment in life. That's right. I mean, and speaking of which, not your body, not your business. Prostitution needs to be legal.
Hey.
I should be able to write off all the bacon grease that I buy for lubricant. I should be able to write that off as a tax write-off. I mean, it's a business expense, honestly. And
I should be able to sell it. I eat a lot of bacon.
I'll buy it from you. It can be your business, fuels mine.
We need a local economy around.
We're gonna collab. That's right. It's co-op for the win. That's right. We're gonna have a porno co-op.
It's always the
brothel with a monthly membership, and have all the whores are on salary.
This whorehouse smells like bacon. It's delicious.
Oh yeah, all the chubby fives are these dudes come in, their balls smell like rotting cheese and stuff, and they're like, smear it with bacon grease, then the bacon grease and cheese just complements.
It's like a fine prosciutto.
Yeah, you gotta keep the whores happy. I don't want to call them whores. That's mean, because they're really sex therapists at that point. They, and I'm Dr. Brain Tickler, and I'll prescribe you hookers and blow, because that's medicinal. Like, take 2 hookers and call me in the morning, or as needed per hour. And then rinse, repeat, double rinse. Wear a condom with a bib. You get them a Red Lobster. They got crabs on them and shit already, so you're good to go.
Yeah.
Anyway, seriously,
on them already.
On a serious note, the world telling you what you can and can't do is like saying you're biological property, that they own you, and that's basically slavery. And then, you think about it, if you don't do what the government says, and, in relation to your body, then they will abuse power and either fine you into oblivion or into economic slavery, or they'll put you in jail, and then taxpayers will be put into a point of economic slavery to pay for your trip to jail. It's the most abusive bullshit ever. Slavery isn't abolished. It's alive and well.
So here's my question. All right. This is what I was going to say before. Remember we were talking.
Oh yeah, this philosophical premise.
Yeah, some things have been on my mind lately.
Okay, yeah.
So I had heard from a friend that there's been this thing, and a lot of us have already thought about and considered this idea of our reality being some kind of simulated version of reality.
I had a nickel every time I heard this idea.
Right,
yes,
for sure. Right. So, recently, there's been this thing where Elon Musk said that he thinks that without a shadow of a doubt, that is the fact, that we're in this fucking simulated version of reality.
Sure, I'm aware.
So, it's, this is inspired some thought in my mind about different things, like, okay, so if we were in a simulated reality of some kind, like what kind of implications are there around that?
Can I stop you real quick?
Okay.
Because I've been doing this a lot. I didn't even get to fully catch up with you, but doing this Twitch, what we're doing right now, I do it for 12 to 24 hours straight, once or twice a week, with tons and tons of random people. And there's random people popping into the Twitch to watch and listen to our conversations. And then they also send me text messages and participate. And so I all of the things that people are thinking about now, and social media and all this stuff, You've
been talking about it a lot.
I've rolled it over in my brain a lot, and so remember how I'm extremely logical and with my critical thinking and like efficiency. What do you want? How do you choose which things you consider and really think about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think about this issue, this idea that everything is a simulation. Like people are like, we're in the Matrix, and then they take it that step further where they say that this is actually just a dream. We're, imagination of ourselves, and here's Tom with the weather, and that all that. But like, What are the chances that that is the case, or is it more likely that this is physical and that our bodies are corporeal and matter and energy exists, and we're with it, we're transmuting with it, we do feel, this is physical, this table's here, this mic's here, there's life, there's biology, cells, even though it could all just be a dream. You might not even be here, and YouTube might not exist. Like, even though that's possible, it's not very likely that that's the case. Just because it's possible, we can't really prove that any of this isn't a dream. It isn't likely enough for me to consider with any real seriousness. But I will say this about it. The Matrix, the whole thing that movie is based on, is metaphorical, and it is about our civilization and society and people's fakeness, because all of the world and all of these games we play and the perception of realities we have and everything we think we know about us and what's proper, normal, all of that is a big fucking pretend time game. And the red pill and the Morpheus, they're people like me who like say, no, check this out. I'm going to pull you out of the Matrix for a second so you can look at it from a distance and see that that's not reality. Reality is what it is, but nobody knows what it is. And nobody's accepting that they don't know what it is. And so because of that, they're in the Matrix playing some sort of pretend game, saying, I'm John, I'm a psychologist, I like tennis, long walks on the beach, and I like being whipped and choked by my wife while she beats me off. I know who I am. No, you don't. It's all fill in the blanks. It's all pretend time. It's all expressions. Everybody's running blindfolded with scissors unless they just say, I don't fucking know, and focus on what the facts are. And then once you've got facts and you know how to identify them, those are your puzzle pieces, right?
Well, see, this is...
Sorry.
Well, no, this is why I like talking to you, because you cut right to the heart of it. So
that's what I try to do, yeah.
So that's all great, but that's not quite where my brain went.
I knew
just
it was.
Because you know,
I knew it was.
you know me, right. So like, I'm going more like, okay, let's say that's a simulation. See, for me, that's where I automatically am like, okay, all right, so let's talk simulation.
Let's write a science fiction plot right now.
Well, let's find out what science fiction, let's find out what like simulation means.
Define simulation.
Right? Like who is simulating what and why. That's why I start to, yeah. So I start to go there. So like, okay, so any any like monotheistic person would say,
Right,
we're a simulation, and God is the one who runs the simulation, right? Like I'm a
us.
Christian, right? I'm a Christian, and I think that this God being is running a simulation, like either dreaming us or imagining us or creating us for one reason or another, right?
filling in the blanks, but okay.
Yep.
Now I'm just asking, like, your thoughts where you're going with all this. Is this considering it, like actually considering it like it's reasonable, or is this just like cool ideas that were like triggered your imagination going?
This is fun and games, and it's more for a philosophical benefit than it is any like real like scientific thought benefit, right? So all my years of reading a bunch of ridiculous fantasy and science fiction has got me to these points, right?
Sure.
Okay, so it goes like this. All right. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking a little bit along these lines.
I love it.
Let's say that, okay, simulation, again, a huge word, because what we do know is we know that we're physical, right? We know that we exist in this physical realm.
I would say that
we think we do.
We're 99%.
Yeah, we think we do.
Sure.
Right? Yeah, right,
there is,
right.
like I said, there is a chance.
For sure. And we also have this, like, I don't know, certainly this impression, if nothing else, that we exist also outside of the physical realm and in another realm of consciousness, right? And that has led to a lot of philosophies of like Ghost in the Machine, you know, where the meat robot and the fucking like autonomous thing that runs it, right? We're like drones, and there's a dude sitting on a thing. And that's it, right? Like, this idea, like, are we a simulation of, like, some one being? Or are we a simulation of some, like, specific beings? Are we avatars of each other or whatever, right? Like, am I an avatar of a thing, and when I die, I go back to my other self, and I'm like, oh, that was me, and now I'm going to be my other new me. Or, like, is there multiple of consciousnesses that run us, or one consciousness that runs us? Or are we all, like, part of the same, like, organism that is like not really conscious of itself in that way, you know? And
some
so, like,
of it is
right. So then you start to wonder like what the simulation exactly means. Like, is this just? I mean, in my entire life, I've been given all these different inspirations and thoughts, and you know, built upon this idea of like, what is my purpose in this game? And if you were to ask, if this were a game, what would be your purpose? Well, I guess it would be to save the world. That's the purpose of every game. And our world's fucked. So wouldn't it be like all of us are really here maybe to like be focused on saving the world, and when we're not, we're losing the game?
I like it. I'm
there.
Right? I've been there for years now.
Yeah.
And trying to get everyone to join me and help me, and I realized that there's not enough of us in one physical location to actually affect the laws.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, even if we gather up all the people we know here, it's not going to be enough clout to like get somebody put on city council and then also sway the rest of the city council to stop being so economically biased.
We gotta pull some serious shit to save the world.
We gotta reform. We gotta reform Atlantis, and any other person who's just in agreement that we need to fix this and get off of the corporate tit and be self-sufficient and have stability and not be economically enslaved, have time to actually experience, enjoy consciousness instead of being a robot or a drone running a simulation for a fake as fuck systems that they're antiquated.
Mm-hmm.
We need such a change that we're not going to get it from any system that currently exists. Like our political system, our economic systems that currently exist, we have to play an entirely new game with all of this. And from a neurological standpoint, and from like existing in two different places at once, that feeling of like being outside the body, and as far as like is it one thing, or is it your brain is running a simulation of the sensory input that it gets, and it isn't even 100% accurate, and we can't remember it all, we can't even process it all. We even process everything a little bit late. Like there's a delay from what happens in reality and when our brain knows that it happens, and then there's another delay for it to process and actually respond to it. So we always live a little bit behind. But to compensate for that, we have adapted this ability to project our consciousness into the future by analyzing cause and effect and seeing what's going to happen and making a plan in advance and then taking advantage of our ability to make that plan. And that is what I call free will, rather than, semantically, it's what I would define as free will, is that planning and not just reacting. So I was thinking about this, is that we're all kind of time travelers in the regard where time is motion in relation to other object, right? And like, we live in our physical bodies, we process the information here, but we project a simulation in our minds, we project into the future just slightly, or maybe a little bit more, and it's hazy in certain areas it's not, right? Mm-hmm. But it's like we project that, and then when we process information and we share knowledge, we are projecting the mind into other minds. And all of these minds together make a superorganism. They make neurons join together, they make a membrane, or like a brain of the earth or the universe, consciousness of the universe manifested in a physical form. Mm-hmm. And we're always transmuting all the time, even when we're not aware of it. As we move through space, there is physically parts of us at a quantum level that are being traded back and forth with these other fields all the time. And for everything we give, I'm pretty sure we're taking something back. And there's kind of like an oscillating balance there. Mm-hmm. And thank you, Veritasium. I learned a bit more about this. And he had visualizations, computer visualizations that gave me a better idea. I think visually, right? So anyway, these intuition that we have, and we try to explain it with spiritual type stuff, ambiguous language, right? It's people are aware of it, but they don't know how to describe it, they don't know how to explain it, they don't know why, and then it gets kind of out of control when we see one little part of it, and then we add a bunch of stuff to it that we like, that serves us for other purposes, and it serves us for social survival, and the pretend time games we play with our fake as fuck civilization. It also, people make shit up that'll serve them for that. People make shit up just to make shit up so that they can tell somebody something, just to have something to say, to be like, I have something to say, and then make stuff up for writing a book. And I mean, we really are at this point children of the universe, all of us. And at this point, I think our complexity level has outgrown our biosphere, our ecosystems. And we've played pretend time so long that this has created a sort of corruption to where now our systems don't house it.
Yeah, I agree. We've started to fail to perform our ecological function.
Right. We don't fit in those systems at all, because we do things that we didn't evolve with the system to do, and the system didn't evolve to do. Now, it is resilient, and it will adapt because,
Well, yeah, it's pushing us out.
And
right now, I mean, we're pushing ourselves out.
Right, we're turning cancerous, mm-hmm. or so parasitic, basically eating ourselves. I mean, and this is the other thing too, is that we are one with the ecosystems, and the people need to realize this. That the way it worked for a very long time is we died on the forest floor at some point. We got eaten by animals. We turned into shit. The shit turns into nutrients for plants. We turn into the fruit. Eventually, we get eaten by another form of complex biology. And like particles are dispersed everywhere that used to be your consciousness, and they become little blips and blobs, little pieces of consciousness in other forms. And it never stops, always transmuting. And if we take away all the nutrients out of the forest, then that system stops. It's like taking a circuit out of a system, and boom, the energy can't pass.
That's right. You get what you give, And so, like, if you, just like in any system, there's kind of like a balance isn't the right word, but in like harmony isn't the right word. Everyone kind of makes it seem as if like there's this perfect balance. No, there's this like moving, static. It's like riding a bike. Like you're always like kind of balancing, barely. You're a little off kilter all the time, trying to stay up on two wheels, but you're never exactly in balance. It's always moving. Always a little off balance. Just enough off balance to keep yourself from falling. You know what I mean? But I think of it like this, you see that that's how nature works, and when we as humans are living in a space where the amount of what we take from the system equals the amount of what we give the system, or the closest we can get to that. You know, we want to try and get as close to that as possible without as many extremes as possible away from it. And that's what we're looking at right now with this climate change shit. It's like, oh, it's like this massive extreme off that line, right? Well, it's going to be a lot harder to get it back into order, especially when we only live 100 years tops.
That's going to change.
I hope so.
It is.
If we can survive this radical shift, I think you're absolutely right. I think that we will, in the course of the next 50 years, if we can make this, if we can round this corner, and we can survive this mass extinction and this crazy.
I think the species shit will ultimately survive because we're so virulent.
We have to.
We're so virulent at this point that maybe virulent's not the right word.
We'll live off each other.
Our technology and our preparation and that projection into the future where we can analyze cause and effect. We got people who've made bunkers and they're ready for any sort of catastrophe. And there's enough of that going on that there'll be a whole bunch of elite rich people and stuff that survive. And maybe if we're good enough, we can prep a city or a state and then start to help other people to do the same. Yeah. That's what we really need to do is make it so our infrastructure is rock solid.
It's true.
And the other thing is that even if it does happen and a whole bunch of people get wiped out,
sovereign mitten,
and some people survive and start repopulating, all of the people who die transmute back into food and become the survivors at some point, and then our population slowly transmute all of nature and resources back into forms of complex consciousness, and then we'll have all of this transhumanist technology at our disposal, and we will expand our lifespans and increase our intelligence and make us healthier and we can build it better. I can get a robot dick and a teleporting butthole. I mean, I'm all for that shit because I'm tired of pooping and I want to be RoboCock. And I want to challenge Stephen Hawking.
I'm tired of pooping.
I want to challenge Stephen Hawking to a porno competition. I mean, he'll beat me right now. I mean, you know how blind people and deaf people, they get a sensory overload, they'll get their touch will be increased, or hearing will become like Daredevil's hearing, right? Well, the only part of the body that works on Stephen Hawking's is his dick. So he must be the most amazing porn star ever.
You know, you gotta wonder why hasn't if Stephen Hawking is so fucking brilliant, why hasn't he made his robot voice sound like Barry motherfucking White? Why doesn't Stephen Hawking sound like this when he talks? Baby.
I don't know.
Stephen Hawking over here got RoboCock for you. What? Girl, you don't even know what you're missing over here. I'm the smartest motherfucker.
And I mean, if he's got this RoboCock shit going on, why isn't he pogo dicking around and why isn't his porno out there?
He should have.
He would be a king. He'd be a king. He'd make Ron Jeremy and Dirk Diggler and John Holmes look like bitches.
And your mom.
Those porn stars, their dicks would shrivel and turtle because they'd be so bitched out. They'd have two innie belly buttons instead of a dick.
2 innies don't make an outie. And I think that's.
I don't even know how to process that.
I don't either.
But
I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore.
That's gonna happen. That's gonna happen sometimes.
That 2 innies make an outie.
I
suppose
it makes a vajumic. It's what happened to Trump. His belly got so fat that it expanded past his dick, and his dick just stayed tiny because of his tiny hands, his tiny dick, right?
Yeah.
And then so his fat consumed it, and now he's just got this crater. He hasn't seen his dick in years.
Yeah. That poor bastard.
I have no sympathy. I'm just kidding. I don't hate the guy that bad, but I definitely don't want his diarrhea of the mouth retard orchestra nonsense running the world, talking to fucking world leaders in other countries, and I mean, fuck that shit. And fuck politics, period. While we're at it, it's that pretend time simulation. Everybody's running this simulation that playing this game of economics and power, and then they're gonna die and transmute into poop. And then back into the other forms of life. They're going to transmute into poor people. Donald Trump dies, he's going to turn into a bunch of poor people that have to work as slaves. He's gonna wish he had done more than just fucking promote his book and his name. Like, and this is something I keep telling people. This is one of my clever trolling aspects, where it's not being mean, it's being clever and funny, which I feel is acceptable trolling, right? You tell someone who really likes Batman that Batman's an idiot because Batman is a billionaire in real life, in his everyday life. With all of his money, he could have cured
amazing shit.
He could have cured poverty in his city, and then because there was no poverty, there would be ridiculously less crime. And then he could go back to being Batman and have almost nothing to do and just sit on rooftops, like using like some sort of bat
and fight exclusively clowns and whatnot, like just the villains of a ridiculous like.
And in the clown apocalypse, he would really fit a niche, right?
Yeah.
But as it stands right now, he's
clown apocalypse, which is upon us, obviously. Right.
Current events.
Yes.
So yes, this is how Batman applies to the real world, and this is why no billionaires are Batman right now.
That's right.
So, with just being Batman and not curing poverty at all, then he's just going out and beating the shit out of 10, 20 dudes and putting some people in the hospital and in jail, causing more tax dollar, causing more poverty because people have to pay to put these people in jail and keep them there. I mean, if you really wanted to do us a favor, if you are going to go out there and beat the shit out of people and put them in jail, don't make it the taxpayers' problem. Kill them. Just they're rabid dogs. Put them down.
Right.
But the problem is...
But he has a real problem with killing.
Right, exactly. So he's idealistic. He's insane.
Oh, yeah.
He's definitely trying to satisfy revenge shit. He's totally fucked up. And
yeah.
But everyone, he's painted...
The Joker talks about it all the time.
Yes, when you're young...
He's like, you're fucked up.
Batman's your hero.
He's like, you're as crazy. You're crazier than I am.
Right, and then when you grow older, Joker just seems to make a little more sense.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and I would say that I'm a hodgepodge of a little bit of all sorts of different behaviors and phenomena that have happened with people, and the more aware and the more exposed you become to all of these different personalities and behavioral expressions and ideas, they become part of you a little bit more all the time.
Yeah.
And that's if you let it. That's if you let it. And then if you don't let it, it's because you're trying to do the self-affirmation game, where I'm this type of person, I wouldn't do this, and I'm that type of person, and I know what I am because I pretend that I know all these traits about me. But if you don't pretend that, you just are. You're just being. And then you become whatever emergent phenomena makes you, which that doodling you're doing on my whiteboard right now is perfect for everything that we're talking about. This piece of artwork here speaks to me. I read the artist's soul, and I see what he's trying to say here, and I see the emergent phenomenon, the expansion, and the curlicue, and the yellow brick and the red brick road. It's the red brick road. Everybody knows where the yellow brick road.
Toad.
Everyone knows where the yellow brick road goes, but does anyone ask where the red brick road goes?
Right.
And now we know. Now we know that
here's where it goes.
Based on what this artist is saying with this piece, that we still don't know where the fuck we're going. But that's okay. That's okay. Don't be afraid. Always know where your towel is. That's
right.
important.
Don't panic.
Don't panic. Write for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is something else I was thinking about. We basically are building a giant Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy section. It's for Earth and our corner of existence, and once we do escape, more relating to us outgrowing our ecosystem and biosphere, at this point we have to move, or we will, we create an entropic demise of our systems, which entropy is pretty much inevitable. Ultimately, I feel like it's a natural law, but it can be delayed.
It's kind of like time is the measure of.
And this is the thing. Entropy is totally applicable in our immediate time frame that we're looking at. if we're not aware of it and decide that we want to do something to avoid it. Because most things in systems, they aren't conscious. They're just aware or reactionary, and they can't choose. They'll just go with the flow because that's how it repeats. And it's like Mobius loop is what this guy Joe said. I like that. And then there's the whole Ouroboros and snake eating its own tail. I mean, it's not as simple as these things, but it's like that. But we now have a choice where we can step off the ride of entropic demise.
Right.
And then when we do that, it'll be like leaving the nest and spreading our wings, going into space, living in space, colonizing other worlds, changing ourselves genetically so we can survive long periods of time in space, being able to transfer consciousness, transfer all knowledge that we've ever accumulated almost instantaneously, and be able to process it. We need to achieve that, and we need to do it pretty quickly. And the way we have to do this at this point is with the transhumanist type things. And here's something that leads me to this that I was going to tell you about, is that there is this massive group of people, demographic, that sees science and transhumanism as worse than any racism, in a way. They look at scientists as... This one guy told me that Neil deGrasse Tyson is a Freemason. And what he does is he brainwashes everyone into being nihilists so that they will kill themselves. And science and all of these nihilists are taking away people's religion and spirituality so that they say nothing matters anymore, and they give up and they kill themselves. Or that, period, they're just taking it away from them. And this is related to their perception of self, which the truth is making their perception of self, their self-affirmations, die. And that's the real problem. But it's creating so much fear that they're prejudiced to the point where they become irrational, they become fanatic. And with the transhumanist thing, they relate that with the NWO and like merging and getting a cell phone in your head and merging all our minds together. Then they think that we're just a robot and nobody can think for themselves, which is an illusion anyway, because nobody thinks anything alone. Everything we think is based on everything we've been learned, exposed to. None of it is an individual's thought. That's just ridiculous. But all of this is creating, it's compounding divergence of our species, what we call species, divergence of our forms, and it's perpetuating the entropic demise of our systems, our civilization, our traditions, our cultures, because it's going to create war. There's already a war brewing between the people and the corporations. And our government corporation basically is trying to control all of our communications, control what we can talk about, how we can say it. Social media, if you go out on the street and say and really truly speak your mind, disturbing the peace, protesting without a license, loitering, got all these other laws that they can use to take away your freedom of speech and expression. And now on social media, they're trying to do this too, because they don't want people unifying. They actually want people to, riot to the point where they can call in National Guard and militarized police, and just start busting heads or locking them up in a FEMA camp. Or they want it to happen, in a way, because they know that we have to depopulate the planet. They know that our current rate of population and consumption is not sustainable. And they know that all of the people who are kind of simple-minded and scared refuse to listen to smart people and change. They're not going to change enough. Like, I know from first-hand experience that it doesn't matter how you tell somebody, if they don't know how to think, it doesn't matter what you say. And then if you try to teach them how to think, they feel insecure with their intelligence. They realize how piss poor their thinking actually has been, and then they can't do it because of the fear of facing their weakness. And what they do is they say, this is your way, this isn't the right way, this is your way. Instead of being like, hey, I can use some of this, modify it a little bit to work better with the way my brain works, and I can do better with my thinking with this. They don't do that.
usually.
And then here's the other big problem with this that I see, is that the young people, they don't have fully formed brains yet. They're dumbed down, they're distracted, curriculum brainwashes them, doesn't teach them how to think, makes them programmable, and so they're hard to deal with sometimes. Not all of them, and gamers, a lot of gamers are a lot better off than some other people, but that's not everybody. And then people who are like our parents' age, they're a product of their environment at this point. They're still alive and successful because they conformed to these broke-ass systems and personalities and thought processes that make them able to conform to the way everyone else wants them to be, so that they survive in this fake as fuck world. And then people like me, and you probably as well, we're on the fringe of society in a way. We have to find a different way, and it's so hard to find somewhere where we fit in because we can't do that. Like, we took red pills. We've escaped the matrix.
Right.
Our brains have increased in complexity and consciousness that the world is designed for the simple masses. These simple systems, these bifurcated this versus that, innocent, guilty, good, bad, all of these systems, what you're supposed to do, morality, that's what people base why they do what they do. Remember earlier you were like, what's our purpose or whatever? Well, sure as shit isn't to fucking play a game of Monopoly with people's lives. I'm sorry, but that's what we're doing right now. And
agreed.
And as soon as we play this game of economics, the way we're playing it, we automatically become each other's enemies. Even if we're fucking pawns on the board working at the same factory with the same pay rate, we become cutthroat enemies to make sure we keep the job and to get promoted or whatever. We will cut each other's throat. We will play games like one of us will outwork the other one. One of us will kiss the foreman's ass more. Whatever we have to do, which fucks over everybody else in order to better the self. And then expecting parents to work all of this time in order to afford to have a kid, and then they can't even raise their kid, spend time with their kid. Really, people shouldn't be trying to raise kids, just the two people raising one kid. It should be the tribe, really, not a public school. It should be tribal experience and exchange and free thinking and curiosity-based learning. So we need an economic revolution, an educational revolution, and a perception of reality and psychological revolution so that we can have general scientific awareness and eventual literacy for all. But awareness is the first step. Take a few years, not that much really, just to become aware of what the facts are and why they're a fact. You don't have to be a specialist. You don't have to be a genius. Just learning some shit, right? If we can get that, that will change our morality. And if we derive our morality from physical facts and physical, like that yield to tangible understandings, like what we were talking about with the transmuting of all matter and energy, turning into the future consciousness, I think once people truly understand that that's not a belief, that that's an axiom of our existence, it's observable for all. It's been in, the death and the rebirth, that is in religion, the reincarnation. People have observed this axiom of our reality for a long time, just with logic, right? People still want to argue with me that it's just a belief. They can't see that it's a fact.
And yet, what's interesting about it is, like, it kind of flies in the face of science being nihilistic, too.
It denializes it. I'm going to make videos
called
called Denializing.
Denialize.
Yes. I'm going to call it Denializing this aspect of science.
It does.
This aspect of... I don't know how I'm going to name it, but... Yeah.
I got that.
Right. Yeah.
Wrapped right into that.
Yeah, you saw exactly.
Denialize. Wrapped it right up.
Yeah, so once people realize that morality can come from science and that they're not taking away your spiritualism and taking away your religion so that you kill yourself, they're removing your pretend time and giving you something that is tangible, solid, and everyone can agree on because it's true. And it yields for more empathy, more understanding, more reason. It's an Indian proverb or something. I think American Indian. I don't know. I saw it passing, but you don't own this world. You borrow it from your children. And what I keep trying to get like my mom's generation to realize, they're like ready to retire and they're still working and they're thinking about saving money so that they can, get all set up for retirement and play this game and then have their golden years, when really what they need to be doing is figuring out how to help people like you and I to make an economic revolution and make sustainability happen, and they need to be doing that full time with us, because we aren't in a position to have the clout, the money, the job, because all of the people who are our parents' age, they've refused or are not able to stop playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the jobs, they have the positions, they know
right.
the people, they have all the money that could help us do this. And we're at the bottom, struggling, clawing, and if we do succeed, it means that we probably got one of them fired, or they got hurt and then we took their job and they couldn't get it back.
Yep.
There aren't enough jobs for everybody to have
That's
one.
right. And my dad is in that position where he's the guy who got, forced into retirement essentially because he couldn't keep his job. He wasn't, he's been doing it for 30 years, and so a guy who went to college and then comes on the job and can do almost as good as he can, but can do it for like a third of the price.
Right.
That's, I'm like, okay.
Right.
And so he gets booted.
My buddy, he worked at a Kroger's since high school or something. He was there for years.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ended up running the outdoor gas station thing. Mm-hmm. And he was getting paid some ridiculous amount of money, like $12-15 an hour or something, because he'd been there for so long.
Mm-hmm.
They found any excuse they could, waited, they were looking, find an excuse to fire him and hire some high school kid for $7 an hour or whatever, so they could stop paying him so much.
That's right, exactly.
You can't create a system that people need to rely on for their life, and then have an incentive to fire people because they were too good of an employee and too loyal and came to work every day and got raises. Yeah. You're gonna fucking punish them, reward them for fucking. Oh, gee, thanks. Like, you're asking somebody. People are worried about nihilism with science. You should be worried about fucking people getting fired after all that and then killing themselves because they can't find another job.
Try nihilism with capitalism.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Capitalism.
Capitalism.
Because it's capitalism and a pile of shit and it's nihilism all in one word. Capitalism. Now we go look it up and it turns out capitalism is a word.
Thing.
It's like computing or something, compiling, and I don't know, fuck English.
Oh man, I got compilism. I got a bad case of compilism even.
Your piece of artwork here is just turned into some craziness. I'll have to take a picture of it and put it on the podcast.
That works for me.
They didn't get to see the whole emergent process, but it's still fucking cool. And I'll leave that up instead of being a blank board when I do recording. That's what I'll do, and people can see it like that. Anyway, so
it's ridiculous. I don't know why I did it.
So what I always tell people with, just to be clear, if you're dealing with ideas, you have to gauge, what you know and what you don't know. That needs to be outlined. And what you define your words as, the words you're using to describe what you're outlining, what is your definition of those words? Make sure you're using the right words, or make sure you're clear on how you want to use that word. Because obviously we can use a word and add another definition for it. Shit, if people misuse a word enough, we have to add that definition to the word because that's the way people are using it. Welcome to fucking language, transmuting, and anyway, so I just want to be clear that if it's an idea that doesn't have a lot of evidence, facts, it's just an idea, it's a cool idea, it's imaginative, make sure that you know that's what it is and you know what its uses are. Because there aren't any to apply to your physical life other than for a book, for this economic game, or for a movie, or for your YouTube channel, or for your art. Like, if you're writing a book and you want to go all over the place with things that are not likely to be true, then it's awesome. It's fantasy. And we need more of that because we're running out of new and interesting ideas for books and movies. We're just seeing repeats of the same fucking bullshit. So we really need that. But for like actual practical like metaphysics and like how you want to live your life and make your decisions and what is reality and therefore what does that mean about our existence and what should we do, our purpose, we need to build that off of tangible science, physical facts of reality. What I tell people is multiple possibilities with fluctuating fields of probability. And until you know, like, you just have to accept not knowing. You have to accept all the possibilities, and then you have to focus on the evidence for each of those possibilities, and just keep your eyes peeled. And when you see a new piece of evidence that fits in there and adds to the cause and effect and supports it, eventually you end up knowing, and then once you know, you'll be able to do stuff with it. And that's how we know there are facts, is when you can land on the answer, arrive at your answer, and then use it to invent something, technology, predict things, and then see it accurately comes true because of what you know. You get confirmation. And then there's the lateral connections between your evidence. You want to see how your evidence verifies each other. Because sometimes evidence for something will be connected. They're both part of something, and like really everything affects everything in some way, but usually if you have physical evidence that shows something, all the physical evidence is more closely related than, like obscurely, whereas like how is pizza and steel connected, and like, well, there's a steel pizza oven, and there's steel in the truck that transported the resources, and there's carbon in both, right?
And, oh shit, I found a piece of steel wool in my pizza.
Every now and then, you're thankful when you find it and you pull it out of your teeth instead of having to try to poop it out.
Right?
Oh, buddy. We're going to have to find L.A. Beast of YouTube and ask him to eat steel wool. He ate a fucking cactus. I think he ate 2 of them.
Ugh.
Yeah, dude, like picking prickers out of his gums, and then he made a video about like having to take a shit the next day. And like he's got a
cactus turd?
He's got a Captain America shield hanging on his back next to his shitter. I would too if I was shitting out cactus.
Yeah, man.
Ridiculous.
Poo and cactus. Cactile poo.
So, not only did we introduce the podcast, we gave people an idea of what it's like when we're completely unscripted and unplanned and we just flow and we go wherever we go, which will be some of the time. Mm-hmm. So everyone can look forward to, I guess, structure as well in the future, and other people will join us.